The City of Federal Way's biannual budget was developed under the leadership of Mayor Farrell with the following goals: to implement the city's economic development initiatives, instill customer service culture and a can-do attitude in the city government, manage city resources in a responsible and responsive manner, and others. Honestly, I just want to break out in some Game of Thrones references. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium for an update on the annual city budget, Mayor Jim Farrell.
All right, Becca, I'll do it for you. All right, so in Game of Thrones, and we're not going to get too far into it, I promise. I've got a slideshow on it, but we'll do that later. There's a major character named Khaleesi, who's the sort of the queen, and when she gives a certain signal, the dragons come forth with all the fire, and the word is Dracarys. So whenever I get around Becca, I'm like, don't say the word. So whatever you do, don't say the word. Game of Thrones is a fun thing to watch, and a lot of things going on, and it's something that Beck and I enjoy talking about. One of the things I enjoy talking about as well is the future of our city, and I'm so glad that you're here today. And I really, this was this was rescheduled from our original State of the City address, and this could not come at a better time to be able to really lay out where we're at right now as a city. And I think it's a very exciting direction, and I'm looking forward to going through this with you. I'd like to say thank you to the Chamber, to Becca, to the board, and for having me here to present this biennium budget. I'd like to recognize all the elected officials here today. Thank you very much for your hard work and for your partnership. I'd also like to take a moment. I know the City Council was previously introduced, but I really think of them as my policy partners. And they just do a phenomenal job, and we're so lucky to have them working for each and every one of us in our community. All right, so a few weeks ago, I go to my barber here in town, and I was going to get my hair cut, obviously, and as I sat down, my barber immediately looked at me, had this very funny look on his face. He said, someone's been painting. He could see all the paint in my hair. And he looked at me and he says, what in the world have you been up to? And I said, well, I told him the story I'm about to tell you now. So when I first ran for mayor in 2013, I made a deal with my wife. I said, if you let me run for mayor in 2013, I will paint the entire house. Now exactly. I had no idea what I was agreeing to. And but it's important to keep your word. And so the very next year in 2014, after I won during the hot days of August, I set about to paint our house. And boy, what an undertaking it was. And it was interesting, and I kept that promise for the most part. This is the part I want to talk to you about. There was one side I just couldn't get to, and it was the side behind the gate, shielded from view. I did the rest of the house, but it also happens to be the longest side. It's a side that nobody sees. There's another house and a gate, and anyway, I had a lot of excuses for why I didn't get to it. So yes, the other side of the house, the other sides looked great. I put all kinds of coats on it, but there was that one side that needed attention. And to do the job of painting the entire house, I knew it needed to be done right. I set out a couple of weeks ago to finish that job, setting aside 4 cans of paint and mentally preparing myself for about 9 hours worth of work. That's how long it takes me. I was up on the ladder, methodically working my way through, stretching to get that hard-to-reach pitch. And, it's hard work, it's monotonous, but it's one of those jobs that has a tendency to leave you with paint on your hands, specks in your hair, and reminders of the hard work days after your job is finished. But one's attention to detail when it comes to the sides nobody sees is what really, truly counts. And it really determines character. What do we do when people are not looking or when it's not necessarily all that obvious? I knew that a well-done and complete job will increase the value of our home and prepare for when the storm comes, and they always do. As John F. Kennedy once said, the time to prepare the roof, or paint the house in my case, is when the sun is shining. And that is exactly where we're at in my point in this administration for this city. We're setting out to paint that side of the house that nobody sees, getting our financial house in order. Now, during the first 4 years of my administration, I focused my sights, and we as a council and the mayor's office focused on carving out a new downtown. We started with Town Square Park, which used to be piles of cement rubble surrounded by a cyclone fence. But now it's the jewel in the heart of a new downtown. Last month, Town Square Park also hosted the Flavor of Federal Way, a multicultural festival where about 1,000 people came out to enjoy some great entertainment, sample ethnically diverse foods, and browse booths of more than 50 vendors and nonprofits. The park has truly become a place where we can gather as a community. The vision for downtown keeps progressing, with Spectra taking over management this August of the Performing Arts and Event Center. It is poised to really blossom and start bringing in a wide variety of events and performances to Federal Way. Now, with our reacquisition of the hotel property on the site of the former Target property, we jumped at that opportunity to intervene into a situation that was stuck at a standstill and keep a piece of land in our possession that will become an invaluable asset for our community and our downtown. It might certainly mean the permanent site of the University of Washington Federal Way campus that I'll talk about in a few moments. And while the downtown staircase is on a hiatus until the very beginning of 2019, I'm confident that the selection of the prevailing bid will produce a product that will dovetail with our budget and our architectural vision that we first envisioned. It's about creating this sense of center in our community that we have so long missed. I'm proud of what we've been able to do with our downtown at this point. We're breathing new life into it, transforming it for future generations, and laying the groundwork for what will be an economic engine and a destination location when the Sound Transit Light Rail is completed, just about 6 short years from right now. But on my second term, I'm shifting my focus to revenue sustainability and aligning our budget priorities to correct structural imbalances that have been in place long before I was elected. When a car's alignment, we all know this just from general experience, when a car's alignment starts to fail, it could slightly start to pull one side or to the other. The driver must constantly correct the wheel to bring the car back to the center of the road. A bad alignment can also affect fuel economy and cause uneven trend wear patterns. An automobile is a system of working pieces that depend on each other, similar to a city government. One problem not taken care of can affect the other parts. The only way to permanently fix the problem and get the car running straight is to get an alignment, or in this case, a realignment. Our city's financial position needs an adjustment to keep us running straight and narrow. So, how do we achieve that result? George Washington once said, quote, "We must consult our means rather than our wishes." This is why, on the recommendation of Councilmember Hong Tran, we utilized zero-based budgeting principles. Now, in 1970, Pete Pryor introduced the world to zero-based budgeting in an article in the Harvard Business Journal. Pryor, an accountant manager at Texas Instrument at the time, said that many line items were historically and traditionally budgeted, regardless of the need for them. Pryor eventually made the transition from the private sector to the public sector, accepting an offer from then Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter to manage Georgia's budget process. Before we get to the results of what that has yielded with the zero-based budgeting approach for the 19 and 20 budget, I want to touch on some highlights for each of our departments and the great things our city governments, our city employees are doing. Now, in Parks and Recreations, the community center continues to be the destination location for residents, including my son, who just loves the place. We're going to set all-time highs for membership and daily attendance in 2018. The hard work put into the facility also translates into the great programs run by the community center staff. We successfully implemented a new after-school program in partnership with the Federal Way Public Schools. Thank you, Tammy. We also launched a new inclusive day camp for children with disabilities. Our parks continue to attract visitors from all over the region. Celebration Park was packed in July for the Special Olympics USA Games. We continue to support new special events in addition to the regularly scheduled large events. And despite the difficulty and dangers involved with cleaning up homeless encampments, our Parks Department workers get the job done. And despite a 3-person staff, Dumas Bay continues to be a revenue producer for the city. The staff there work hard to produce a redesigned website that has led to an uptick in rental inquiries. Now, in community development, you see new projects going up all over the city. But what you don't see is the behind-the-scenes work our department puts in. The permits department issued permits for some major improvements projects for Illinois Yogurt, the King County Library on 320th Street, and the North Shore heated storage among the major ones. we've collected more than $800,000 in fees in permits so far this year. We continue to welcome new businesses to Federal Way. The Northwest Kidney Centers recently opened an administrative office and a clinic in Federal Way, bringing 100 employees here. The City of Federal Way also has among 139 census tracts in 36 counties across the state, approved earlier this year by Governor Jay Inslee for an opportunity zone, enabling them to offer special federal tax breaks to encourage development and job creation. And that's in large part to the efforts of Tim Johnson and the support of our City Council. Now, how about our IT department? Working behind the scenes, again, those spots you just don't see, the IT department continues to install grant-funded crime prevention surveillance cameras all over town. IT workers are also in the midst of completing a major geographical information system mapping technology upgrade, which will allow the community and staff easier access to mapping and geographic resources. Another unheralded department, the city clerk's office, does great work. Staff there recently applied for a technology tools grant through the Washington State Archives Local Records Grant Program to help acquire a system that will create a more user-friendly experience for residents who come to the website searching for public documents. And for anyone who has ever filed a public records request, you probably want to get an answer to your question quickly. Well, the clerks do just that. They fulfilled 501 public requests in 2017, an increase of over 135% the last 4 years. You will likely notice every day when you're driving around town the impact of our fabulous Public Works Department has on the roads and infrastructure. We completed $1.5 million of overlay projects in both 2017 and 18, and will continue to do so. We're working to complete the Adaptive Control Traffic Program on 320. You know the feeling, we've all been there, when you're driving down 320 and you get stuck at one red light after another. It's maddening. This program, which is run out of a control booth at City Hall, gives us the ability to man traffic in real time in order to cut down on choke points during peak commute periods. You can also feel the department's reach beyond your car. Our teams completed sidewalk improvement projects at Steel Lake Park, 21st Avenue South, and 20th Avenue South and South 360. We also completed a citywide LED streetlight conversion as well as the Lakota Park Stormwater Facility Repair Project. These projects were completed on time and within budget. Although the Sound Transit project is quite a ways from breaking ground here in Federal Way, we at the city have a dedicated employee in our Public Works Department, Mr. Tony Doucette, who is the liaison with the project. And as co-chair of the Tacoma Extension Project, I have a seat at the table, along with my neighboring jurisdiction, in protecting Federal Way's interest in an expansive project like this one. And how about our police department? Former California governor, I know I'm going to quote the governor here, the former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, once said, "Government's first duty and highest obligation is public safety." I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of good news to report. Crime is down in Federal Way across almost every reported category. And this is the startling statistic. Crime is down. Through June of this year, crime is down 17% in the first 6 months of 2018. We anticipate having the lowest overall crime rate in 5 years if those numbers stay true. And that comes on the heels of a 10% drop in the previous year, 2017. During my time as mayor, overall crime is down 4 out of the last 5 years. My mentor, the legendary King County prosecutor Norm Mellon, used to refer to certain crimes as life, those that affect everyday residents. That's car theft, burglaries, things that just affect your view of your community. We are seeing significant decreases in those crimes as well. Vehicle thefts are down 21%. Larceny is down 25%. Residential burglary is down 9%. And even vandalism is down 4%. And that's just the great work and everyday work our police department does. Since taking office, with the support and partnership of our city council, we have increased our police officer positions by 10, making public safety a priority for our community. This year, we authorized, again with the assistance and partnership of council, authorized the hire of 5 police officers, funded in part by a Department of Justice grant, boosting our total number of officers to 134. Our department is a nationally accredited law enforcement agency. We were officially accredited by the CALEA commissioners with the Gold Standard Award in Excellence. Now let's take a look at the makeup of the city's financial picture for 2019. And it wouldn't be a budget presentation without a couple of pie charts. We have the pie chart up here illustrating the revenue streams for city revenues. The largest amount of revenue is for charges of service with a little more than 22 million. One example of that is permit fees paid by developers or residents. The next largest revenue producer is other financing sources such as transfers of real estate excise tax funds or REIT funds that can only be used for capital funding, or transfers from the general fund coming in at a little more than 18 billion. Sales tax revenue comes in at $15 million, followed by utility tax at 12.3 million, intergovernmental at 12.2 million, and finally property tax revenues at nearly 11 million. Now let's look at the budget expenditures for the various departments of the city. The police department makes up about 31 million. That includes SCORE jail contract costs and 9/11 dispatch. The public works department checks in about 30 million, while non-departmental such vehicle replacement charges is about 31 million. You can see the other departments' individual budgets there as well. It's no secret that we face certain challenges when it comes to bringing in more revenue. In fact, it was the top goal identified by the City Council and I at the council retreat back this February. The passage of Initiative 747 in 1997 locked in a 1% limit to the maximum increase in tax revenue that could be levied through the property taxes. When I-747 took effect, Federal Way's neighboring cities got locked into a higher rate than we are. And that's the structural imbalance, and that's the inequity that we see in the region. That has caused us to fall behind in keeping up with inflation over the years, which has increased certainly by more than 1% a year. But our city, with our great city council, has a great track record of addressing budget shortfalls in a responsible manner. We take great pride in being a responsible steward of taxpayer dollars. Earlier this year in March, we remedied an $854,000 deficit in a very rapid amount of time frame. Things looked daunting at the time, but we were able to bridge the gap through a variety of sources and methods that took leadership and ingenuity. Lee Iacocca, who breathed new life into the Chrysler Corporation as a CEO in the 1980s, said, quote, "We are continually faced with great opportunities brilliantly disguised as insoluble problems. We are all about solving problems, akin to stretching and finding a way to get that hard-to-reach spot that when you're trying to paint. Now we have an opportunity to get the city of Federal Way on a sustainable path." Now, to go back to the results of the zero-based budgeting that we embarked on, I want to talk with you about the detailed roadmap of 2019. One of the things that we did, there were smaller departments of the city that were already operating on such a small margin. I asked the directors of the big four departments, Parks and Rec, the police, Public Works, and Community Development, and they dug deep and found more than $200,000 each in savings and efficiencies for a total of approximately $1 million in efficiencies to address 2019. We also identified $500,000 in savings for our SCORE jail costs and $100,000 savings coming from no longer paying the management contract for Center Stage. These pieces will help bring us closer together to budgetary alignment. We have been living within our means, and my proposed fiscally responsible budget adheres to that mantra. My proposed budget acknowledges that there is a tax fatigue in our region, and trust me, we hear that loud and clear. That is exactly why this budget features no tax increases, and why we will not lay any city employees off. Earlier this year, our finance director, Ade Irula, said we would need, as things stood right there before we did any of this, he projected that we were going to need to dip into strategic reserves for the general fund to a tune of $1 million per year, 19 and 20. And my immediate response when I heard that and when he had briefed me on it before was, no, we won't. And ladies and gentlemen, my proposed budget will not do that. In fact, my proposed budget that I have provided to council now, and I gave the presentation last night, not only has us not dipping into strategic reserves at all,
we're going to pay back the strategic reserves at $100,000 a year that we were able to use when we addressed the shortcoming from $854,000 earlier this year. We're paying back that reserve. The reserve needs to be at about a 17% or $9 million figure. That is a very important thing for the city for its financial viability and to making sure that we get good bond ratings. In this biennium, we're working on several issues that we're focused on. We need to adjust the salaries of our city staff. More on that in just a minute. We need to conduct a comprehensive salary survey workload study. Again, I'll talk about that in just a moment. And on the recommendation of our police chief, Andy Wong, I recommended to the council that we walk away from the SCORE jail agreement. The city council last night affirmed that decision during last night's city council meeting, voting unanimously to give me authority to notify SCORE that we will be leaving that interlocal agreement that we've been in for those years. The savings in our 2019 budget that I previously mentioned will allow for a living adjustment for non-represented city employees. We also need to conduct a comprehensive salary survey and workload study. We need to take care of our people. The last salary survey was done well more than 5 years ago. We are in the business of providing needed services. We've built up a staff of highly qualified individuals who are very good at their jobs. They have a wide breadth of institutional knowledge, but we continue to lose good people to other cities. We are losing that intellectual capital because they are finding a more competitive salary package elsewhere in neighboring jurisdictions. Since downsizing in certain departments several years ago during the economic downturn, some of our employees' scope of work has changed. They have been asked to do more with less, and they need to be properly compensated. Turning our attention to 2020, we will truly see the positive financial impact of SCORE. Our initial projections predict a net savings of $2.1 million per year for the city of Federal Way, $4.2 million in the biennium. That's even factoring in the debt service that we'll have to pay. We still stand to gain $2.1 million of usable money in our general fund budget. This is about making a business decision for our community. Our SCORE budget has skyrocketed since joining 7 years ago, increasing $3.9 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an increase of 173%. I'll say that again. Over the course of the past few years that we've been in SCORE, our budget for jail services is 173%. That is not sustainable, or it would literally be less expensive for the city to put people into the Courtyard Marriott here in Federal Way at a suite than it is to send somebody at SCORE. And while we love the people at the Courtyard Marriott, we're not going to do that. The people of this community deserve to have their taxpayer funds spent wisely. We have other inmate housing options available to us that will save us significantly. There are items that need to be addressed in the budget as they are major initiatives for the city and my administration, and therefore are necessities. Included in my budget is funding in 2019 for the university initiative. We've got great partners with Highline and the school district and the University of Washington Tacoma. We're excited about those partnerships, and those efforts are progressing. We are literally looking for space right now with our partners to make sure that we've got a location. And that's going to be a transformative program. And on the heels of the release of our Quiet and Healthy Skies Task Force report, thanks to Yarden Weinfeld, who's just a genius on policy issues, he and his team and the task force that we put together put an outstanding product together. I'm recommending to the council to allocate funding to pay for the study about $1,000 in both 2019 and 2020. And I'm also proposing allocating funding for the Sustainable Airport Master Plan, the SAM, review in both years as well. We must be engaged on this. This is a quality of life issue for our city. And we value our pivotal partners in the community, and that's why I'm pleased to announce, as I did last night, that I'm proposing allocating funds, continuing our pivotal partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's right, it's on film. Yeah, exactly. All right, that's a cut. As well as the Historical Society. You know, anybody who knows me knows, if you ever walk in my, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Diana. And, you know, your history is very important in a community that you were in, very important in a republic, very important in general, to remember your history, to remember how we got here. And the people of the Historical Society do incredibly important work. We also continue to provide support for the human services in our budget in 19 and 20. In 2018, we committed about $165,000 in general funds and pass-through funds to homeless prevention efforts, transitional housing, and emergency shelters. We have a very generous community as well with our faith-based organizations, but that's the money that's coming through the general fund. As we access our painted side of the house, we make sure we're applying an even code that will protect against the storm. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we know it will come eventually. It always does. We are focused on keeping facilities clean and putting the needs and vision of the residents of this community in the forefront. We are fortunate to have dedicated and hardworking council members who are leaders with vision and commitment to federal way. My proposed budget, our proposed budget, to bring into being all the individual programs and projects that address these community needs. Thank you to my partners in all the departments, and a special thanks to my finance director, Ade Irululu, and his team for their hard work on this budget. And thank you to the Chamber for having me here today. Thank you.